There are other tests that we use, but the main one that we recommend in FDN for our Canadian practitioners and United States-based practitioners, because it's only available in these two countries, is the patented mediator release test. So remember, I just said one of the problems historically with food sensitivity testing is the fact that you can only look at one thing out of hundreds, if not thousands of ways that the body can react. IgG, IgE, IgA, all these things are called mediators. So the one test that came out is called the MRT, stands for the mediator release test. So these guys are at Oxford Biomedical Labs down in West Palm, Florida. Love them. They're wonderful people. They actually, if you run their test and you're local to them in Florida, they let you run it at their lab and they will give you a tour of the facility. I had one of my clients do that. He called me up. He thought I was the best thing ever because I'm like, I didn't know they were going to do that. That's pretty cool.
So, yeah, that is cool.
Yeah. So they were showing them the tech and stuff. But what they said is, wait a second. If there's hundreds, if not thousands of ways that the body can react with these mediators, and IgG testing already costs like $130 to $200 something, depending on how many foods you're running. If every single one is going to cost this amount of money, what if we just figured out, wait, where are the mediators coming from to begin with? It's the white blood cell. And so the white blood cell releases the mediators. So what's fascinating about their test, Shawn and Janet, is that they don't look at IgG, IgE, or any of these things specifically. What they patented is the process of measuring volumetric changes in the white blood cell. So at first, this isn't going to work because you have to do the data to correlate this with symptoms. But now what they've been able to do, first of all, it's very clinically backed. All their science is on nowleap.com. So you can check that out and all the science is there. But they have a very high specificity rate, and the replicability rate is 93.6%. So this is one of those tests that actually gets better as time goes on because they realize how much change in the white blood cell actually is indicative of an immune response. So it's color coded like other food sensitivity tests. Green would generally be safe, generally. Yellow is going to be like, hey, watch out for this. And red's like, hey, whoa, no go for a little bit. So we can't tell you when you run this test if you had an IgE response. I can't tell you if it was IgG. I have no idea how you're reacting. What I can tell you is you are reacting to this food. And what's nice about this one is like when you do an IgG test, sometimes people remove the foods. They're like, okay, I didn't feel anything. What's going on? I have never had a client yet in 6 years do this test and not see improvement. Some is incredibly extreme, like in a good way. Others, it's a little more subtle, but all of them notice something. So that's kind of a good way to at least get this started foundationally here today.
Okay. Jan, do you have any questions for Evan on that?
That's really fascinating because I just had somebody come back with a test that, they had lower IgA, and I'm like, well, why would that happen? And, we started looking at it, and really it was because they were under stress. So our physical position of having, chronic stress really can change how we can absorb our nutrients and how those nutrients affect us. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of, they're both tied together. So I guess where I'm going is which one of the problems is causing this? Because is it their lifestyle that's causing all the stress, and then they add the food, or is it the food causing the stress?
Well, this is a great question. I love what you just said about the IgA thing because it's a separate test, but we run a stool test in FDN called the GI map by DSL. And there's one marker on there called anti-gliadin IgA. Now it's right under secretory IgA. So you're absolutely correct. If someone's been under chronic stress, we can actually see that secretory IgA being below reference range. And this is where we call ourselves like health detectives rather than just Western medicine or health coaches, because we start thinking outside the box. And this is a simple example, but we go, okay, wait a second. If secretory IgA is low, we know it takes years for that to get there, generally speaking. If it's low and anti-gliadin is already like middle of the ground, is it not fair to say that IgA response wouldn't have been higher if this person's secretory IgA wasn't higher? So it's kind of astute thinking to say like, okay, they're under chronic stress. This is why this is happening. I agree with that. So then to answer your specific question about how does this all tie into the stress thing, this is why I validated what that guest said on your show several weeks back, Shawn, when they talked about how do food sensitivities even matter? Do they even exist, right? This is why I don't like screwing around with random tests, because I do believe the MRT, it's so good that it actually accelerates the healing fast enough in the client that it's worth it.